Resourceful Designer, episode 45. It's okay for graphic designers to ask for help.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. He still wears a wristwatch to tell time, Mark DeCote.
Welcome to the podcast. I really appreciate you tuning in this week, taking some of your precious time out of your day in order to plug me into your ears and spend a little bit of time talking graphic design. Now, before I get into this week's episode or anything, I have a little story I want to share with you, something that happened to me earlier this week. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you might remember episode 12 way back then, which was titled 6 Ways to Boost Your Creativity. And one of the ways was to do menial or repetitive tasks, stuff like doing the dishes, mowing the lawn, walking the dog, things that don't take a lot of brain power, stuff you don't need to concentrate on. And I mentioned in that episode that my favorite method was to just take a shower because it's something we do on a regular basis. You don't really have to think a lot when you're in the shower. And I find I get my best ideas when I'm there. And I know I'm not the only one. I've heard from lots of people that the shower for them is an idea generator. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in the shower, going about your business, and all of a sudden you stop and you think to yourself, have I washed my hair or not? You look down at the shampoo bottle and you honestly can't remember whether or not you opened it up, poured some out, lathered up your head and rinsed. And you're completely perplexed because your mind was racing in all sorts of different directions, trying to come up with different ideas or whatever the case. But you honestly don't remember if you've washed your hair, to the point where you might actually take your fingers, go grab a strand of hair and drag down just to listen for that squeaky clean sound that'll tell you that, yes, you did in fact wash your hair because you honestly don't remember. Come on, admit it, raise your hand. You've been there before. I'm not the only one who's done that. Well, a few days ago, my morning started off just like any other. I got up, I watched SportsCenter to catch up on what happened in the world of sports the night before. I ate my breakfast. And then I came to the computer and I started working on a job that I had started the previous day. It was a magazine ad that I was doing for a client of mine that I had started the previous evening and left it half done. So in the morning, I decided to pick up right away and I started working on it. Now, it didn't take me long to finish it. It wasn't a big, very involved project. So I finished it. And then I went on to a few little odds and ends, little tasks that I had to do, completed another little job. And then I decided that it was time for me to tackle the big job for the day. And that was a website that I had been putting off. It was a website for a new client. And I had been putting it off for several days because, to be honest, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I had some ideas in my head that I thought maybe might be a good direction, but I wasn't sold on them. You know, they were good, but there was just something about them I wasn't sure about. So instead of sitting down and starting on that, and as I've mentioned many times in the podcast before, I often will come down before having my shower, I'll sit down, I'll work, I'm in my bathrobe, and sometimes it'll be noon before I realize, I haven't done anything, so I'll get up, go have a shower and that. Well, this time it was around 10, maybe a little bit after 10 o'clock in the morning, and I decide, you know what? I'm going to go hop in the shower and contemplate this job because it's the one I'm going to work on next. I don't have a choice. I've put it off for long enough now. I have to get to work on it. So I'm in the shower and I'm washing, and I did remember to wash my hair. I didn't lose track like I mentioned earlier. And then all of a sudden, as I'm in the shower, I have an epiphany about this website. I see an entire different thing, completely different from the concept that I had. And suddenly, bright as day, the entire idea shows up in my head. And it's amazing. I know exactly what I'm going to do for the header with all the menu items, the way the layout and the flow of the site itself, the various pages. And everything is just there, clear as day. I can see it in my head, and I get super excited to start working on it. So I finish off my shower, I grab my towel, I start drying off, and that's when I realized that something was wrong. I had forgot to turn the water off. Man, did I feel like an idiot. I was standing in the shower, wrapped in my towel, with the water still spraying all over me. I was so excited about this website, about this idea that just popped in my head in the shower there that I forgot to turn the water off. And so next thing you know, I've got a soaking wet towel. I had to get out of the shower, take a few steps over to where we keep the dry or the clean towels, dripping water all over the place. So then I had to dry myself off, then clean off the tile floor and all that. Boy, did I ever feel stupid. And that I could honestly say is something that has never, ever happened to me before. Many times have I been in the shower and all of a sudden I thought to myself, did I wash my hair? Did I grab the bar of soap and wash the rest of me? I don't remember. But never have I ever started drying off and forgot to turn the water off. So that's how my week started off. Now, that was a good thing. Unlike last week where I talked about overcoming hurdles and bad stuff that happens, this one was actually good because during this whole thing, I was, of course, laughing at myself. But in the back of my mind, I had designed this entire website and I got to work, and I have to tell you, the website's looking great. I'm not quite finished it yet. There's still some stuff to do on it, but it is so much better than my original concept, and I'm just loving working on this project. Now, speaking of loving things, I'm loving the interaction that we're getting in the new Resourceful Designer Facebook group. You like that little segue I did there? Yeah, so do I. Right now, we're not a lot of people. I think there's just over a dozen people in the group. But the interactions are starting. People are starting to get to know each other, talking about their business, what struggles they have, what made them decide to work from home, and all that good stuff. And I envision this as a community of home-based graphic designers or people who want to be a home-based graphic designer, sharing their ideas, their stories, their hurdles, their troubles, and everything, and helping each other out in growing their individual businesses. And from just this past week, it's only been a week since it started, I see it growing and I see it developing into exactly what I was hoping it would be. So thank you to everybody who's already joined the group. And please, if you haven't yet, you are more than welcome to join. Simply visit resourcefuldesigner.com/group and you will automatically be directed where you can request to join. Those of us in the group are looking forward to welcoming you. Now, I know that intro took a little bit longer than normal, but I do have a resource of the week to share with you before getting to the meat of this episode. And this resource might take a little bit of time too. Now, last week, I shared the resource of the new Divi 3.0 theme, and I hope some of you grabbed that, jumped onto it, because it is amazing. I've been playing around with it, and I absolutely love the new way of designing the website, manipulating things from the front end, and being able to actually see your changes as you're making them. It is absolutely amazing. And if you haven't checked that out yet, you can get it through resourcefuldesigner.com/trydivi. And for a limited time, you can get 20% off when you purchase an Elegant Themes subscription. Now, I'm not sure if that's still going on at the time that you listen to this, but if you're lucky, you can save yourself 20%. And if you're already an Elegant Themes member, you can upgrade your membership and also save that 20%. Now, this week's resource has to do with last week's resource, and that's the Ultimate Divi Bundle. Now, what's this, you may ask? The Ultimate Divi Bundle is a collection of plugins specifically designed to work with Divi by Elegant Themes. Now, there's 5 plugins in all, and they've been developed to enhance the already amazing abilities of this theme. Now, I'll quickly go over the 5 plugins that are involved. One of them, and probably the biggest one in my opinion, is Divi Booster. And what Divi Booster does is it has a very easy interface to help you accelerate your Divi development by allowing you to make some of the most powerful changes to your Divi website, such as editing footer info, changing the look of your sidebar, altering some of the module features, and a lot more. And these are all things that either you could do through Divi, but you had to go back and dig through some of the options and change things there. And some of the things are things that you couldn't really do with Divi, such as image animations when they come in or the way that they're animated, fading in and that. It gives you some additional ones that are not actually included with Divi. So there's a whole bunch of things involved. Now, I've been using this one plugin, Divi Booster, for over a year now, and I absolutely love it. But the other ones were new to me. So if you actually already own Divi Booster, you can purchase the bundle at a discounted price in order to get the other 4 plugins, or if you have any of the other plugins as well. The second plugin in the bundle is Divi Switch. And what that does is it adds over 50 toggle switches to your WordPress dashboard to quickly turn on and off certain Divi features without having to go look for them in the options. So they put all those separate options that you would have to go dig through for all the various modules, the different sections and everything, they all are conveniently placed in one place and you can just choose which ones to turn on and off. Now, the third plugin is Aspen Footer Editor. And as the name suggests, this one gives you the ability to fine-tune the footer in Divi. The one part of Divi that I do think lacks some finesse, because the rest of the theme, you can do just about anything you want with it. But the footer is a little bit more restrictive. And this plugin opens that all up and allows you to make easy changes to the style and look and content of the footer. Now, the fourth plugin in this bundle is Divi Dashboard Welcome. Now, this one is really cool. If you're a web developer, it allows you to customize the welcome screen. And that's the screen whenever somebody logs into WordPress. It's the very first screen you see. Well, you can customize it to actually leave notes. If you're allowing your clients, you give them a username and they can log in and make posts and all that, you can actually leave notes on the welcome screen specifically for your clients. Not just that, you can add contact forms and your contact information. So every time your client logs into the website, if there's an issue, you can have a form that says something like, do you need help? Here's how you can contact me. Or do you need me to develop something else for you? Here's something. And you can change these whenever you want. So this is something that can really help boost your business. Imagine you just log into your client's website, throw up a note there saying something like, hey, Christmas is coming. Have you thought of maybe printed or electronic Christmas cards to send out to your clientele? If you are, drop me a note with the convenient contact form right here to the left of me. So that's one that's new to me, and I'm definitely going to implement that on my clients' websites. And the final plugin is one called Divi Ghoster. And what this does is it allows you to white label your Divi site, meaning that when your client or if anybody else goes in, they have no idea that you're actually using the Divi theme. Even if you use one of those theme detectors, websites where you type in the URL and they will tell you what theme is being used on the site, it won't know that you're using Divi. And you can actually change it so that everywhere in the site where it says Divi, you can change it to your own brand if you want. If your company is called Amazing Designs in the back end of WordPress, instead of saying it's the Divi Builder, it'll say it's the Amazing Designs Builder. In your WordPress menu on your dashboard, instead of having a section for Divi, it'll say that it's the Amazing Designs theme. It'll even change it in the appearance and theme. So the theme will be there, but it will no longer be called Divi. It'll be called whatever you want. Now, another function of this is actually removing things or hiding them from view. So even stuff like if you have these other plugins, the Divi Booster, Divi Switch, Divi Dashboard Welcome, if you have these other plugins, it can actually hide these plugins so that if anybody goes in, they won't even know these plugins are there. So absolutely no trace of Divi is listed on your website so that your clients don't know what you've done. And best of all, your competition has no way of checking to see how you're building the websites. So that's a really interesting one. Now, all of these, as I said, are for sale individually, but they are available as a bundle. And this bundle sells for $60. Normally sells, I think if you add everything up, it would normally sell for $91. But I've arranged a special deal for Resourceful Designer listeners for an additional 10% off your purchase. So if you visit resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi bundle, all one word, Divi bundle, it'll take you to the checkout page where you'll have an additional 10% off the purchase. So as I said, if you are already using the Divi theme or if you're playing with it, if you just got it since last week, I highly recommend getting this bundle. It's a one-time cost. I've been using Divi Booster since I started using Divi and I absolutely love it. And now that I got these other plugins, I see a lot of good use for them. So go ahead and check those out. And don't worry about remembering all of these links. All of this will be available in the show notes page by visiting resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 45. And now, it's okay for graphic designers to ask for help. What's the one thing that every business person struggles with, regardless of their occupation? I'm not just talking about graphic designers. Every single business person out there, what do they struggle with? If you said time, then pat yourself on the back, because that's the answer. Everybody struggles with time. It seems no matter how hard you work, how much effort you put into your job, there just never seems to be enough time in the day to get everything you want done. You see, the problem is time is finite. You can't purchase more. You can't get more through a subscription service. You can't receive any in it as a gift for Christmas or your birthday. Time is finite. Once it's gone, it's gone. So you have to make the best use of the time you have. Now, of course, this applies to life in general, but for the purpose of this podcast, I'm talking about how it applies to your graphic design business. Specifically, all the time you spend struggling or fiddling with things which could be considered a waste of your time because you'll never get that time back. So, why waste it in the first place on menial things that you could get help with? Now, I said I was going to talk about your business, but many of the things that you could get help with are not necessarily related to your business, but they can help your business nonetheless. Now, these are things around the house. You're a home-based graphic designer, so there's all sorts of stuff around the house that have to be done that could possibly take time away from your graphic design work. And I'm talking about stuff like regular housekeeping. Maybe you have some kids, so childcare, yard maintenance, even going out to buy your groceries, going to the pharmacy, and all that stuff. These are all things that you can ask for help with. Now, sure, you might have some family members. Maybe you have some kids who could go mow the lawn, so you don't have to do it. Somebody else in the household can vacuum or wash the floor. But there are other forms. If you don't have that help, maybe you're by yourself, you don't have a family, or maybe your spouse is just as busy as you are, or the kids are too small. You're not going to send your 3-year-old out to mow the lawn. So these are all tasks that you can get help with. Hire somebody to come in and do your housekeeping on a regular basis or on a special need basis, somebody that you just call maybe once per season to wash your windows, wash your walls, or do whatever. Hire somebody to come watch your kids for maybe an hour or two a day, if not more. It doesn't have to be some professional. Get a niece or nephew to come in, or pay your neighbor's 12-year-old daughter to come watch your kids for an hour or two and pay them a few bucks. Same thing with yard maintenance. You can hire a professional company to come in and do it, or you can pay some teenager down the street that has a mower that's trying to raise a little bit of money for something to come in and mow your lawn, and that saves you time. Same thing with your grocery shopping, your pharmacy. There are delivery services out there that can do all this stuff. You can actually purchase your groceries online these days and have them delivered right to your door, or you can hire somebody to go to the pharmacy to pick up your prescription and save you all that time. So why would you hire somebody to do these things, you ask? I mean, they're all tasks that you're perfectly capable of doing. It's efficiency. That's why. Think about it. If these are tasks that you would need to do during the day, maybe take time away from your business to do. Maybe there's something you have to do that has to do with a business that works the same hours as you. Maybe they work 9 to 5. So the only time you can go there is during the day, but it's technically not something that you actually have to be present there. Maybe it's just you have to go drop something off. For some reason, they don't accept stuff by email or whatever, and you don't want to mail it through the postal service. You have to go physically drop it off. Well, you can hire somebody to go drop that off for you. Now, again, why would you do that? Because you can hire somebody to go drop this thing off for you and pay them, whatever, $10, maybe $20. I'm going by Canadian rates here, US rates. If you're elsewhere in the world, it might be cheaper or more expensive. I don't know. But say if I wanted somebody to go deliver a letter downtown for me, I might pay them $10 for that. And I would do that because the time it would take me to go downtown, hand deliver that letter or package or whatever, and then come back home, I could be working on a job and make much more than $10 for that time. So why would I waste my time that's finite, time that I will never get back? Why should I waste it doing something that somebody else can do, that I could pay somebody to do, while I am doing what I love to do, designing something and making much, much more? Sometimes 5-10 times more. I mean, depending on where you are in the world and what rates you charge, maybe you charge $50 an hour, $75 an hour, $100 an hour. Imagine if you charge $100 an hour. Isn't it worth paying somebody $10, maybe even $20 to go do something for you, mow your lawn, clean your house, deliver a package, whatever? Isn't it worth paying them $20 so that you can work during that exact same time period and make $100? Yeah, you might be saying, well, in that case, I'm only making $80 an hour. Well, it's $80 that you wouldn't have made otherwise because you wouldn't have been at your computer designing. So try to do the work that you get paid the highest for and save your precious time by paying somebody else to do the other work. Now, that's great for other tasks that don't have to do with your business. But when it comes to your business, how do you implement all this? Well, I can offer you one simple word: outsourcing. Outsource the things that you are currently doing but that others can do just as well, if not better than you. Again, this will free up your time to do the things that only you can do. I mean, there's certain parts of your business that you can't delegate. I mean, people are hiring you to design, so only you can really design for your business. Now, when it comes to promoting your business, nobody can do it like you. Yes, you can hire a promotion firm or some company, but chances are, if you're a home-based graphic designer, you're not going to hire somebody else to promote your business. I mean, that might be great if you're a big agency, but no, you're going to do this yourself. So that's the sort of thing that you can take on. Or attending network events. I mean, you're not going to send somebody else to attend a network event for your business. So those are things that you take on, but there are a lot of things that you can outsource for your business. And it's just a matter of looking and deciding and picking the tasks that, yes, you're perfectly capable of doing, but your time could be better spent elsewhere. I'm in the process right now of hiring a virtual assistant, not for my graphic design business, but actually because of the podcast. I have a bunch of topics that I want to talk about, but they require a little bit of online research and stuff like that. And you know what? That's research that anybody can do. As long as I give the parameters, I can hire somebody at a much cheaper rate than what I charge for my design services and have them do the research and then just present their findings to me that I could then use and compile into a good blog post or a good podcast episode. And the time that I would normally spend doing that research myself, I can now devote back to my graphic design business so that I'm not taking so much time. This podcast takes a lot of time away from my business, but I knew that going in. But why should I waste even more time doing all this other stuff that I don't need to be doing? I can't have anybody else talking into the mic. I can't have anybody else writing my blog post. Yes, I can have guest blog posts. That's fine. But my own blog posts, I can't have a ghostwriter doing them, or I suppose I could, but I wouldn't want to. So those are things I need to do. But the research behind it, that I don't necessarily need to do. My time would be better off spent designing stuff for my clients that I'm charging my rates for, and then I can willingly pay somebody a much lower rate to do that research for me and come up with the same answers that I would get if I was spending my time with it. So find little things in your business that you can outsource to other people. And you know, if you do this, it might allow you to take on projects that you wouldn't normally take on. Now, this is something I did not know at the start of my business. And I wish I did, because I lost out on some projects that I really would have liked to take on. A few years after I started my business, I was hired by a company to design a website. Now, I'll admit at that time I wasn't working with contracts, so I didn't have a signed contract or anything. But they had hired me to do their website. And I started looking at it and looking into everything that was involved. And I realized that what they were asking was way beyond my capabilities. At the time, I didn't really know PHP and MySQL, and I was thinking that I would have to learn, but this project was not the type of project to learn on. And eventually, I ended up turning to the client and saying, "Thank you very much. I appreciate everything, but I just realized this website is beyond me. You'll have to find somebody else." Now, in hindsight, years later, looking back at that project, I could have done probably 85% of that project I was capable of doing. There was just a small section. It was all database driven stuff. And at the time, I didn't know anything about databases. And that section of it deterred me from taking on the whole project. Thinking now, I could have easily hired somebody to do that one section of it while I handled the rest of the website. And I could have got that project because that was a huge project, lots of money. And I ended up turning it down because I didn't think I was capable of doing it. And I was right. I wasn't capable of doing it, but I was capable of hiring somebody else, outsourcing that one part. I just needed code in order to connect to a database and do a certain task. I could have easily hired somebody to do that for me. And then I handle every other part of the website. I was capable of doing that. I just didn't have that knowledge back then, or the experience to tell me that it's okay to ask for help. Yes, I'm a home-based graphic designer. I work by myself, but that doesn't necessarily mean I have to do all the work myself. And you got to realize in your business that it's okay to spend money in order to make money. Sure, you may not make as much on a project if you hire somebody to help with it, but again, it frees up your time to work on the parts you can, and it allows you to take on projects that you wouldn't normally do. I lost money on that project I just told you about. I lost thousands of dollars because I couldn't do one small section of it. Now, if I would have hired that person, like just imagine if, say the job, it was a $4,000 job. I don't know, I think it was more than that, but let's just say it was a $4,000 job. I turned that job down because I wasn't capable of doing a small part of it. Now, if I would have hired somebody to do that small part, I might have paid them $200, $300, $400. What? Even if I paid them $1,000 to do that part, I would have still made $3,000 on that job. My client would have paid $4,000. I would have paid $1,000 to whoever I outsourced that coding to, and I would have still come out ahead. But no, I didn't realize that it was okay to ask for help. So I turned down what would have turned out to be maybe $3,000 of income. And it was only years later that I actually realized and learned that lesson. And looking back, I could think of several projects that I could have taken on or even requests for proposals that I never bothered submitting a quote for because there was a small part of it that I wasn't capable of doing. So there's nothing wrong with spending some money in order to make money. Now, the best way to do this is to build a community. You can't be a master of everything you do. Sure, you may consider yourself a generalist when it comes to graphic design. That's what I do. I do just about anything. I'll do print design. I'll do Facebook ads. I'll do websites. I'll do trade show booths. I'll do anything. So in essence, I'm a generalist. But even a generalist can't do everything. I'm not an illustrator. I can't draw worth beans. There was a time in my business that if somebody came and they had a project that was very heavily illustrated or needed illustrations, I would ask them to find somebody to do the illustrations and supply them to me because I didn't know any better. Now, if that's the case, I have a list of illustrators that either I've worked with or that I know of that I can turn to if somebody comes to me and say, I need some illustrations. Anytime I go to a design show, or you know what's really great for illustrators? Go to a comic book convention, especially the smaller ones, local ones, not the big. I'm not talking about Comic-Con in San Diego, but I'm talking about the little ones that are more comic book related. You'll often have booths with illustrators and artists there trying to sell their wares. I collect business cards from these people because they all have different styles. And if a client comes to me and say, I need somebody to do some sort of illustration in a anime style or as, you know, something that would really be good for young children ages 2 to 4. I can look through these people and I might have never worked with them, but I've met them. I've seen some of their work and they would be perfect. So these are a great place. And not to mention just online, you could find illustrators all over the place. So build yourself a community. And the people don't even have to know they're in your community. But if somebody came to me today and said, I need a job and I need an illustration, I have a section in my contact list just for illustrators. And I can go in there and I can go through and say, okay, this one, no, there, that would be the perfect illustrator. Reach out to that person and say, how much would it cost to do this? And then I can relay that information to my client. If it's too much, I can find another illustrator and so forth. But I also do the same thing with writers. I'm a good writer. And there's often times where I end up writing some of the content for my clients, but I'm not a professional writer. And there's certain cases where I have to turn to a professional writer or I refer a writer to my clients to do stuff. Same thing with developers. As I mentioned before, I know PHP and MySQL, but I'm not super proficient in it. So I can do minor things, but when it comes to something major, nowadays I'll hire that out to certain people. And sometimes it's just a case of finding somebody online. You can go to Upwork, which used to be Elance or Odesk, and find somebody. I had a website for a client that was using a special platform called PrestaShop. And I managed to set up his whole website. It was quite easy. But whenever he had an issue, there was something broken on the website, I didn't know enough about PrestaShop in order to go and fix it. So I went, at the time it was Elance. I just looked on Elance for somebody who was a PrestaShop expert. Found somebody, paid them $100 to fix the problem. I didn't have to waste my time digging through code, trying to figure out what it was. And the $100 I paid them, the time that they took working on it, I ended up making several $100s by working on other stuff for other clients. So again, I spent some money there in order to save money because it would have taken me many hours of digging through trying to figure out what the problem was. So build yourself a community. Illustrators, writers, developers, proofreaders, UI experts, Facebook ad experts, social media experts. These are all people that you just keep track of their names in case time ever comes up. I live in a community where a lot of stuff happens in French and English. It's mostly English here, but we're only 30 minutes away from the Quebec border. And if you know anything about Canada, Quebec, the province of Quebec, is entirely French. Meaning businesses, if you have English, French has to be predominant and English is like a secondary thing. So if I have any clients that have to do any work with Quebec, they need to make sure that the majority of their stuff is in French. So I have a list of translators because even though I speak English and French and can write it, I'm not the best for translating. I don't trust my translation because I speak a broken French. So I have a list of translators that I can use and I don't use them on a regular basis. Sometimes a year will go by that I won't need somebody, but I've got a list that if a job comes up, I can just say, there's somebody that translates English to French, and some of them specialize in different things. And I'll just contact them and say, okay, I've got this job. How much will you charge me for this? So build yourself a community of people that you can use that'll free up time on your hands to do stuff. So the whole thing is that you shouldn't feel guilty to ask for help. We start these businesses on our own, out of our home, because we don't want to work for anybody. We want the freedom of being able to do what we want, being able to work with the clients we want, being able to work the hours we want. And some people just automatically believes that that means you're alone. You do everything by yourself. Unless you start some sort of business with a partner or something like that, you are mostly by yourself. When I worked at the print shop, I had several other designers there with me. And sometimes it was as easy as just bouncing ideas off them. Or if one of them, I knew one of the designers there was super talented at hand lettering stuff. So if you wanted something with a fancy handwriting, she was your go-to girl. And now I don't have those people here. I'm working by myself. There's nobody here but my dogs. And trust me, they're not much help when it comes to designing. So I've built myself a community of people. If I need something handwritten, that designer I used to work with is just an email away or a phone call away. And I can get her to do something and throw her a few dollars for whatever it is she has to do for me. But you got to realize when you start your business, whether you're running your business or you're thinking of starting a business, nobody can do everything by themselves. I mean, that's why design agencies are made up of teams. Usually when you go to a design agency, there's a task for all sorts of different people. They'll have translators, they'll have copywriters, they'll have illustrators, they'll have designers, they'll have coders. That's what makes up a design agency. Because if there's a task for one person, then another person could work on a different thing and another person on a different thing, and then it all comes together for one project. But just because you work by yourself at home doesn't mean that you have to suffer and not produce the work that an agency does. There's no reason to feel guilty for asking for help. I mean, any good business owner in any other industry, I mean, even a Fortune 500 company will tell you that to run a highly profitable business, you need to surround yourself with competent people who support you and people that are capable of doing things that you may not be as proficient in. Not saying you can't do it. If you've been listening to me, there's a lot of these tasks I'm telling you you don't need to do that you are capable of doing. I can code in PHP. I'm just not that good at it. So why should I waste my time doing it when I can have somebody else do it in a fraction of the time it will take me at a fraction of the cost that I would make if I was spending my time doing something more productive? You have to be confident in what you are able to bring to the table and focus on that, your strengths, the reason you went into business, what you love doing, and let other people focus on what they bring to the table. And when you do that, you have a much higher chance of succeeding in your business. Now, before I go, I do want to talk about a kind of a rut that designers find themselves in, and that has to do with procrastination. Now, some people procrastinate just because that's what they do. They're procrastinators. Some people like working under pressure. I'm somebody who would much rather spend several days thinking about a job as the deadline is approaching and then spend the last few days actually working on it. I know there's a famous quote by a US president, sorry, I don't remember which one, that says something, if I was given 6 hours to cut down a tree, I would spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe. Well, that's my thinking when it comes to design. I rarely jump right into something unless I get super excited about a project. And yes, this has happened to me when a client calls up and say, I need a logo for a certain business, and my mind starts racing. And as soon as I hang up the phone, I'm working on their job, forgetting everything else I have because it's fresh in mind. But most of the time, when I get a job, I like to sit on it a day, maybe a week, depending on what the time frame is. I'll wait and sit on it and think about it, let it brew, let those shower moments come to me like I did with that website I told you at the beginning. I had sat on that for several days, and all of a sudden I had the epiphany in the shower that allowed me to proceed and make a really good website. Well, that's the way some people work. But other people, when it comes to procrastination, it's just because, that's just what they do. They wait till the last minute to do things. But you know what? Procrastination might mean that you need help on stuff. Procrastination is often a sign of you not having the confidence in your own abilities. Sometimes it can occur because you want to be perfect. You're seeking perfection in what you do. And in the back of your mind, you're not sure if you're capable of doing it. So you procrastinate. You wait as long as you can because you're actually afraid. There's a little bit of fear there. Maybe it's a fear of failure, a fear of not creating your best. And that feeling could be because there's parts of that project that you're not comfortable with. You're not the best person for it. So why don't you find the best person for it? Why waste your time? Because again, time is finite. There's only so much of it. So why waste your time on stuff that you're not good at when somebody that is an expert at it could handle it for you? Look at your past accomplishments, past projects that you're really, really proud of, and use them to help build your confidence in what you're capable of doing. Those are the things that you should focus on. Those are your strengths that you should work on. When you can look through your portfolio and say, wow, I loved working on that job, or that was a really fun one. I had a blast doing that. Or I'm so proud of this design. I just love showing it off to everybody. Those are the type of things that you should be concentrating on. And then look at your past jobs, the work that you've done. They said, oh yeah, that was good, but I struggled with that one, or I really didn't like working on that one. Well, those jobs are the ones that you may need to find somebody else to work with, or at least to handle little sections of it. Use that to help free up your time in order to work on the things that are most important and that you are best at. Take value of your unique abilities, whatever it is, again, that you bring to the table, and then find people that their unique abilities is the areas that you lack in. And when you bring them on board together, you can accomplish much, much more. There's only one you. Nobody else can be you. So be the best you that you can and do the things that you are best at and let others handle the rest. And that's what I wanted to talk about this week. Simply, it's okay for graphic designers to ask for help. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean you're incompetent. It actually means the opposite. Realizing that you need to ask for help takes a lot of strength and shows just how good a leader and how good a person you are, that you realize that there's areas you're not good in and that other people are better and that you need their help. So that's it. Now I'm going to skip this week's question of the week again. I know I didn't have one last week and I apologize. I'm not going to have one this week. Podcast is already running a little bit long. And to be honest, I really want to go finish that website that I told you about in my opening story. I'm almost done. And I'd really like to get it completed and show my client because I'm really excited to see what they say about it. So I do have some questions in the can, but if you want to send me in a question to answer on a future episode of the podcast, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback where you can submit your question and I'll add it to my queue of questions to answer. Now, next week's episode, I plan on talking about having to take care of yourself in order to succeed at your graphic design business. Now, I want to remind you about our Facebook group at resourcefulдesigners.com/group. As I mentioned at the beginning, we've already got some great conversations started there, and I would love for you to join in. So head on over today. And if you are a Divi theme user from Elegant Themes and you want to help increase the already amazing theme, it has some amazing capabilities. But if you want to add some even more amazing capabilities to it, I highly suggest you check out the Ultimate Divi Bundle by visiting resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi Bundle, where you can actually save 10%. It's a special deal that I've arranged with the group that's put together the bundle, specifically for Resourceful Designer listeners. So by following that link, you will save 10% off your purchase of the already discounted price of $60. So thank you very much for tuning in this week. I do appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to me. Hopefully I was able to help you this week. If you want to reach out to me, just visit resourcefuldesigner.com. All my contact information is on the website. Until next time, I am Mark DeCote, wishing you all the best in your graphic design business, and as always, reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.